Starting.
1, 2, 3.
Hi guys! Welcome back to our channel. My name is Diane Zawadi.
Rachel Lumba.
And I'm Jasmine Henderson.
And today we're going to be presenting you Another Country by James Baldwin.
A book review and analysis. The main subject that we did was emotion, as well as the subcategories.
Sexuality.
Contradictory feelings.
So the main the main subject in this book is emotions and how they were sort of not true to themselves. As we previously said, emotions is our main topic, and it shows and people in the book are mainly driven by their emotions, yet they're not true to themselves. As we are all humans, we are very emotional creatures, and we all act upon how we feel. They didn't really take that into consideration upon what they were doing because they weren't being true to themselves, but at the same time they are still human, and so they are still acting on their own feelings. As we see in Vivaldo and what's her name? Ida's relationship, as well as Rufus and Leona. And even Vivaldo and Eric as well. Everybody in this book, save for maybe one character, it seems as though they're lying to themselves because they're not being true to who they are. So as we saw when Cass left Richard, well, not when she left him, when she cheated on him, and when she was explaining to him why, she said how Eric was actually true to himself. Even though she's married to Richard, she has kids with him. She cheated on him for, as it seems, for more of an emotional let out, because Richard is a bit more of a square, and he doesn't really talk about his feelings, especially with his wife. So Vivaldo, actually, he seems to be a pretty emotional character, actually, even though you wouldn't think so at first. But as we saw in his relationship with Ida, he actually he does try to speak of things, talk about things, and talk things out, especially with Ida and Ellis's their past relationship and their relations that they have with each other. He did try to speak of it, except Ida shut him down almost immediately. Vivaldo also seems to be very confused, seeing as one minute he says he wants to be laid, and the next minute he says he wants to be loved. Maybe if everybody was being true to themselves and each other, they may have not have had to actually be in relationships with each other, as well as finding things out about themselves. He did love Eric. He did. Even though he wants to deny it, he did. And he saw it as a friendship, but obviously Eric saw it as something different. But he kept denying himself, which probably led to some frustration. In the end, of course they don't have to submit to their own labels if they don't want to, because it's not something that they're human beings. They should do as they please, as far as their feelings. But at the same time, sometimes you have to actually come forward and talk about that stuff, just so that you can have a better understanding of yourself and who you are. That way, relationships can be easier too, as we saw with Cass and Richard's relationship.
It doesn't affect you in the end.
And it doesn't affect you in the end. Thanks.
What they think they are. The characters cannot separate their private lives from their personal lives. And the simple private act like sex became their mean of releasing their frustrations and emotions. Just like the way you can see Cass and Vivaldo. They used Eric to release their stress and their frustration and misunderstandings that they had in their relationship. And the same thing, it can be, you can see it through Ida. Ida knew how she was conceited. She knew everything that Ellis really wanted from her. She knew that Ellis wanted to just sleep with her and cheat with her. But although she knew all that, she still left herself and let herself do that, because she couldn't be open, and she couldn't show her true feelings to Vivaldo. Even though sometimes, though she was with Ellis, she could think about Vivaldo, she couldn't go back home and show or demonstrate her emotions So she was contradicting with herself, because when she wanted to show how much she loved Vivaldo, instead of showing the love, she instead showed the hatred, all the hatred that she had for Ellis to Vivaldo, and all the resentment that she had, she would all show it to Vivaldo. Those are some of the things that really happened in the book, and that really caught me so much about how they couldn't, they just couldn't get hold of their own feelings. They couldn't know how to express their feelings. They were contradicting with each other. Vivaldo, at the same time, after telling Eric that he loved Ida, and then in a period of like 2 days of being with each other, he ended up saying that he liked Eric. So he couldn't tell his true feelings, if he really liked Eric or he liked Ida. And about sexual, they couldn't tell if they were straight or they were homo, because Vivaldo said he thought he was straight, but then at the same time he found himself sleeping with Eric. The same thing. And Eric too, he thought he was straight, but he wanted to try it to be a man, and they ended up sleeping with Cass. So they had these contradictory feelings in themselves. They cannot resolve it. They had like these emotions they didn't know how to control in the book.
So as we continue with the subtopics, we learn that most of these characters are driven around with their sexuality. We really learn that most of them are heterosexual. The ones who are heterosexual become bisexual, and so everything's just like going around with how they feel, and they end up sleeping with each other, which is probably the main part that most of us get caught on. We learned that Rufus was actually heterosexual.
Bisexual.
Hetero.
He was heterosexual, but as
Leona too.
he was heterosexual, but as he met Eric, he became a bisexual.
He became, yeah, just say he became bisexual.
Pause.
Sorry.
Okay. So we learned that Rufus is heterosexual, but as he lives with Eric, he starts developing feelings for Eric, but they don't really sleep together. So he still remains heterosexual, but the feelings are still there for him. And and so since Rufus was just like he had like an introverted personality, he kept keeping all the feelings that he felt for Eric to himself, and all the things I went through the community, how his society used to abuse him, and I mean the way he just used to look at things. I mean, we all know that this was slave time, and the way they used to treat the black folks was not right, but he had no way of relieving his stress and frustration, so he thought maybe by just keeping to himself it was a way he could feel better. So as he meets with Ida, things get complicated. He likes Ida, but he kind of... So as we learn, most of the characters are heterosexual, but as they meet with different people, they become bisexual, which is the most thing that really captures our eyes. We know that Rufus and Leona, when they met, they were heterosexual, but as Rufus's past, when he was with Eric, he kind of developed some feelings which maybe made him like bisexual, because these are romantic feelings he felt for Eric, even though they didn't sleep together. So when he first met with Leona, things became kind of complicated, and as we know, Rufus, he was an introverted person. He kept feelings, the ones that stressed him and frustrated him most, he kept them to himself, and he really didn't tell anyone. So this kind of like also had a reason to why he committed suicide. And he didn't tell even his best friend Vivaldo. But as we also continue to Vivaldo, so we know that the same irony that was with Rufus, the same irony that was with Rufus and Leona continues with. As we continue, so the same irony that was with Rufus and Leona goes on with Vivaldo and Ida as they met. The way Rufus kept things to himself is the way Ida kept things to herself. She didn't want to reveal her feelings to Vivaldo. We all know Vivaldo was white, and we all know the situation that kept going on between Vivaldo and Ida. Him being white and her being black. It was also that the society couldn't accept them being together. It looked as though it was a disgrace, and they were just going behind their cultures, doing things they shouldn't be doing. And Vivaldo, Vivardo's heterosexuality is an important part for the way he sees himself. So basically, Ida coming into his life and trying to
Change things?
he changed things, created a future. It messed up a real lot, and their relationship got really complicated. And this way, Vivardo started feeling a little out of the relationship. He was kind of feeling lonely and depressed. Though he wanted to find a way out, but there was no way he could find a way out because Ida kept blaming him for the death of his brother, and so this made Vivardo not feel a man. He wanted to feel more, but he couldn't feel it because Ida looked at him in a different way.
In conclusion, we see that all characters in this book have different emotions that they're facing based on their race, gender, and sexuality. And this led them to different situations, as we've seen throughout the book, and what led them to do what they did and act the way they acted.
Play a big part in emotions and their emotions. As far as the ultimate demise to Rufus was obviously because it was his own doing, which a suicide is usually based on emotions, as far as how he was feeling after, he lost Leona, and then, he thought back to his times with Eric, and he felt as though he should have acted in a different way. And since he doesn't have Eric anymore, he doesn't have Leona, he was completely alone. And his relationship with Vivaldo was a strange one, seeing as, they had a good friendship, but a lot of the times there's a lot of tension, especially when they're around other women, especially Ida and Leona specifically. But I also feel that while Rufus is sort of the main character, I feel like Vivaldo is definitely, it's easier to tell his emotions. I feel like James Baldwin, the author, definitely, probably on purpose, made it easier for us to see inside the mind of Vivaldo rather than Rufus. But I definitely think he's one of the more dynamic characters as far as emotions go, because we get to see him at his highs and his lows.
Yeah, also them sleeping around with each other played a bigger part in emotions because if they hadn't slept with each other, their feelings wouldn't have changed, and also they disgraced their dignity, their families, and themselves. So this created, it made them feel empty in themselves. So the feeling of emptiness started creating bigger space, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching our video.
See, look at that.
She was good in life, and life was good. I'm Baldwin. Nice to meet you.
Now that she starts.
Oh my God! What? I got an idea. He's gonna win.
It shows how the Okay, so as we saw, Vivaldo, Ida and Ellis's relations, okay, as we saw in his trying to get aid, but ended up getting aid. Anyways, we also saw how in his conversation with Rufus, after he spoke about Eric, Vivaldo, yeah. I also feel that, I don't think,
so as we should start taking some personality now. We should give up.
James Baldwin was born in 1927 and died in 1987 at the age of 60. Around
What did you
60%.
have to say about the age?
You know, you say the age.
Sorry.
We know. Vivaldo and Ida. So as we continue to this, I know.
3.
We all know that we were still like.
Okay. Oh, pause it.